Hello and welcome to my 100th video. That is a pretty crazy milestone in my opinion. That's a lot of videos. We've been doing quite a few videos and it hasn't really been that long, maybe about 4 or 5 months. And so first off, I just want to thank you all so much for all of your support and your continued comments and likes and everything you've been doing. All that positive stuff has been really, really great. So I want to say thank you first off. Secondly, what are we doing? This is my desktop. Well, I'm going to go through what I do to create a video. And I just want to say this isn't quite going to be a tutorial. This is more going to be a how I do things, but hopefully that you can get something out of this, you can learn something. I'm going to go through each stage and show you exactly what I do. So in turn, I guess you could pick that up and apply it to your own things. We're going to be playing Minecraft today because that's pretty much what I do mostly. But this will you can obviously carry this over to any game that you fancy playing. So firstly, for those of you who care about this kind of stuff, here's my system. This is actually an iMac that I'm running, but I've been running Boot Camp for the last however long now because I just prefer Windows 7. No other real reason. I'm using a Rode NT1A microphone into a Sapphire Pro 24 DSP sound card, and that will come a little bit more relevant later. So there you go, there's all my good stuff though. So we're going to pretend, I've actually got a few episodes of this out, probably 2 by the time you see this video. So we're going to pretend I'm starting a new series and we're going to start right from scratch. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do is create a little bit of a logo, and I'm going to do that in Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop or any sort of Adobe application, and especially if you're a student, I highly suggest you go and look at their Creative Cloud licenses. Especially for students, it's incredibly cheap. It's so worth your money. So what I'm going to do then is I've actually got a project called a Thumbnail, and this is what I make all of my thumbnails in, just this one Photoshop project, because everything's here. And inside of this, I've got a smart document. So here you can see I've actually already built this. So we can go ahead and turn off a few of these layers if it ever calms down, and then we should have, where's number 1? That's got to be here somewhere, number 1. So all we've got open then is this here, and now this is called a smart object, and this basically allows you to have a separate, as you can see, it's a completely separate Photoshop file that I can edit, and every time I save it, it will just update in our other window. Photoshop seems to be a little bit slow for me, and I'm not really sure why. That could be to do with me recording as well. So basically what I've done then is I have got the Minecraft logo off of the internet. It's not hard to find whatsoever, and I've cut out all of the background, and then I have written the word minigames because that is what we are doing, Minecraft minigames. I'm using the Obelix Pro font. You can find this on DAF font. I'm going to try my hardest to throw all the links to anything like this in the description, but I cannot promise I'll remember or be able to find it. And what else might you want to know? The color you can match. That's all done with if you hit blending options, you've got all of your layer styles here. And so I'm using a stroke, and here are my settings, and then we've got a gradient overlay. This is what actually colors it, otherwise it would actually just be blue. So I've got a gradient set up here like this, and it's a very fine transition, but it adds something a little bit more interesting in my opinion. And the drop shadow, I think this is possibly the most important thing. Drop shadows make everything look so much more professional in my opinion. I mean, it just goes, I don't know what it is, it just adds something different, I guess. And I think it looks really, really cool, and it sits really nicely on the top of the videos, which is actually what we're going to be using this for. So what I can do is hit Control S, and that will save this for me, and that will update this. So I'll just show you now, for example, if we just had mini aims, if I save that and go over here, it will change it to mini aims. That's what a smart object does, basically. It's a pretty handy thing to use. And so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to save this I'm going to save this straight into my Minecraft folder, which isn't really a Minecraft folder anymore. It's pretty much a YouTube folder, but that's fine. And I want to save a PNG image. Now I'm not 100% sure on why this works. I'm going to throw it in the intros folder actually. Not why it works, sorry, I'm not 100% sure why this is, so we can call this minigame intro logo. So yeah, as I said, it will keep the opacity that's already on it. For example, all of this background here is invisible, transparent, and it will keep that and it will save it as part of the image. So if I open the PNG anywhere else, it will be transparent. Whereas if I was to save this as a JPEG file or something else, if I'm to open it, it will have a white background where it will fill it in and try to color it. I think the same happens with a GIF or GIF file. That will also, yeah, we'll save that. That will also give you a see-through background. So now we've got ourselves that file. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be opening up, where are you? After Effects. Now After Effects is what I use to make my tiny bits of intros. I used to have fairly long intros and they were cool, but I just feel like it takes a bit of time to get into the video, and especially I find when I'm watching through somebody else's playlists, I basically just try and skip, and I end up learning exactly how long their intro is because I'm always skipping it if I'm watching video after video. So what I've been doing lately is, if you watch any of my other videos, I literally just have an image that will flash on the screen and go away again. It's about 5 seconds long. So let's... Alright, something's probably broken. That's fine. Everything is always broken. Let's make a new composition, and this will be our minigames intro. Yeah, okay. I didn't show you the settings. Let me bring those settings back up again. This isn't entirely relevant. I do this at 720, and this is something I should really change because my videos are at 1080. Where are we? So we want to go for this one here, the HDV 1080. Am I right? Oh, HDTV, here you go. We want to go with this one. And everything else should be set. We'll set it to... we'll set it to 5 seconds because we don't need any longer than 5 seconds. And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go to my Minecraft, into the intros where we saved that PNG, and we can drag it in here, and that won't work. We've got to drag it onto the projects, my bad. And what you'll see is, this is what I was saying about it being a PNG, we now still have a transparent background, and that is pretty important. So if we go to transform, we can do fit to comp, and that will fit it to the composition. Now, this is the part where you can do whatever you like. I personally cheat a tiny bit, and I use these animation presets. Specifically, I use the spiral one, and that basically does it for me. So now as I play through this, yeah, it will do that, which is what I use. If you don't want to do that, you can bring down this arrow here. There are plenty of hotkeys and stuff, and you can add what's called a keyframe. So let's undo that. Let's pretend I didn't want to do that. And you can hit a keyframe. You can go to another point in the video. You can change it. So let's change the scale and hit the keyframe, hit another keyframe. And then when you play the video, it will go through like that. And you can do that with a position. You can do it with literally anything. Oh, I don't want to save. I want to undo. So that's how you can do it if you want to do this manually, or you don't want to cheat, I guess. But I like this one. This is the one I like. So this is the one I use. And that is at the wrong place. That is one tip for you then. Make sure you're what do you call these things? What they call transport bars? Current time indicator. Make sure that's at the beginning when you drop this in. So if we hit play, you can see that that will run through like that. And now what we're going to want to do is then I'm going to go into my, where is this now? It should be in here. Here we go. And one of these is that little whoosh sound that I always use. And it's not these ones. It is... where is it? Oh, don't waste time finding this thing. It's in here somewhere. Oh, there it is. It's this one. So we can bring this in, and we need to find our projects. And I'm still not 100% sure how you actually go about doing this. Yeah, I should have probably pointed out I'm not that great with... oh, what's the button? I've done it before. Oh, there you go. It's this little bar. No? Is it? Yeah, there it is. I'm not perfect at these things at all. I don't have a big knowledge about how to use this, so I just know enough to make videos. So now, you should be able to hear this if I do a pre-render. There you go. You can hear we've got the sound in. So now what I can do is I can go to about here, and I can hit, I think it's, what is it? Is it T? Yeah, T is the opacity. I can add a keyframe. I can go to the end of the video and I can turn the opacity down to 0, and that will create a fade. And what you can do is you can use these, you can hit F9, I think that's the hotkey. Otherwise you've got the keyframe assistant, and you can do easy ease, and that basically smooths it over. So it kind of starts going slowly and then it kind of speeds out. So the next thing you're going to want to know if you're using this system is you want to add it to a render queue. That's fine, we can do that now. And here are my settings if anybody would like to see them. I've got this set, and then this one here is the important one. This is set to QuickTime. What we actually want is an AVI, and that is because we want to have an alpha channel. Now the alpha channel works in the same way as the PNG does. I believe it's the same reason we use that, and that is simply because it will give us our transparent background, and that's going to be very necessary if we want to have this on top of the video. Otherwise we're going to have a white screen and you're just going to get this logo on top of it, and that's going to cause you problems. So that's what you want to do, and then we can hit render. I'm not going to do that because I do actually already have one of these, I do believe. So if we go into intros, minigame intro, I've already got one made. So we're not actually going to do that, and we don't need to save this. So that's what I'd do then. That's the first thing I'd do. I'd get these little pieces together ready to edit. And the second thing we need to do is, third thing even, is record the video. So for that I use DxTory. So let me run through this with you now. DxTory is possibly one of the better decisions I've made in this whole thing. Fraps I used for a while, and every opportunity it had to give me problems, it found a way to give me problems, and I had such a hard time with it. And I got DxTory, and it was the best decision I have made. The website, please don't be put off by it. It's not the best website, but the software is really, really, really good. So these are the settings I'm using, and these two aren't really important. This is the important one. These are my video settings. So if you do have this program and you want to copy, I will find you a link for the Lagorus Lossless codec and then I will find out how to talk properly, and you can see my configuration. I'm Y12 using multi-threading. So I've got, what else is important? The percentage here, this is kind of important. I use percent and set my window to 1080 rather than using size at 1080 or 720. And that's because for some reason with Minecraft, if you use size, it seems to cut the edges off, and I'm not 100% sure why it does that. So I stick to that. I record at 30 because you don't need anything else with YouTube. It will compress it down to 30 anyway. And I have heard some people say that they have problems if they go from 60 to 30. They actually start to notice some issues. So I stick with 30. So these are the settings you might want to copy. The profile, you don't need to worry about that. That actually changes for me. As you can see, I've got quite a lot of them. It changes whenever I open up a project. My audio settings now. This is the important bit, and this is actually half the reason why I love DxTory so much. Now, as I told you in the beginning, I'm using a Sapphire Pro, and that is my sound card. So the device for track 1 is my Sapphire Audio microphone, and the device for track 2 is the speakers. This is the output of my computer. Now, what this does is, and this is the best bonus I think of DxTory, is that this will record 2 audio tracks and save it into the one AVI file, and I can extract that from there, and I'll show you that later once we've recorded our video. And I have 1 track of just my audio, my voice, and 1 track of just the game volume, so I can edit them as I please. So I've got this set like this, and this is simply because, let me see if I can find this quickly so this doesn't take too long. If we go to recording devices, you can see here, this is my microphone. If we hit properties, and I believe it's under advanced, you can see here I've got 2 channels, 16-bit, 44, 100 CD quality. So if I go back to my microphone, you can see that is exactly not what I've got set here actually. I have messed this one up and now I look a little bit silly. That should actually be set on 44, no, this should be different. I'm assuming I've changed something. It should be set to that. I'm assuming I've changed something when I've updated. But that's how it should be set, and that's how you want to set these settings, because you need these 2 here to be linked, otherwise you're going to start noticing a little bit of latency. And what latency will do is it will basically play your audio back at a slightly, very slightly slower speed, and simply that's going to put you out of sync when it comes to it. And the same goes for the speakers. You want to match that, and that's pretty much all that's going on. I don't use screenshots. The advanced settings, I don't know if this is very important, but you can see everything I've got here. Same with global settings and DxTory. So the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to come to this part, and this is where I choose where I save my files. So I'm going to go to my minigames folder and my endergames folder. I'm actually going to create a new folder because we're recording episode 3 today. I don't know if this is actually going to end up being episode 3, because I'm not too sure I'm happy with 2. So we can get rid of that. And the great thing about DxTory is once you've set it up, that's it. You leave it alone. You just double click, it opens. You're good to go. I have a hotkey set for F9, so all I've got to do is open it, wait for it to open, hit F9, and I'm already recording within 10 seconds. It's brilliant. So what I want to do then is I want to bring up Minecraft. This is what we're going to be playing today, and I'm not actually going to record me recording myself playing, because there's a good chance we're going to get quite a bit of lag, and there's a good chance we're going to find a few problems with that. So I'm not going to be doing that, but there you go. Yeah, so you can see you get your little thing in the corner, and all you've got to do is press your hotkey and you'll start recording And that's basically what you want to be doing with this. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to stop this recording, I'm going to start a new one, and I'll record my video, and I'm going to bring you back to Premiere Pro, and we're going to edit this thing down. So I'll see you in a second. And welcome back. So I had a great time playing some minigames on the GOM HD server, and I actually only did it in one recording, which sometimes, as I'll show you now, it takes multiple parts. So there's 3 parts to this one, and that is an empty folder. And yeah, some of these other ones, there's multiple parts. This I actually only did in one, but there's still going to need to be some editing done to it. So to do that, I use Premiere Pro. All of these applications, by the way, that I've been using come in this Creative Cloud license that I was talking about earlier, and I really do suggest you go and look at it. So I'm going to start a new project, and I'm going to name this one Ender Games 3 because it's going to be the 3rd episode probably. So let's do that. Let's go ahead and start that up and wait for this to load. Now let me grab you my, where is it? We don't have a sequence yet, so let's get this thrown in. So what we're going to do is we're going to need to drag this over into our project, kind of like we did earlier. But what I want to do is show you the big benefits of using DxTory, and that is what I can do is I can right click this and I can extract audio stream. And what that's going to do is, as I told you earlier, I can record 2 audio tracks into the one AVI file, and that's insanely helpful. One problem with it is if you aim to just upload this clip as it is, you won't be able to do that because you can only have one audio track playing at a time if you just play that AVI. But what you can do is obviously take it into your editing program, and as long as you have the option for more than one audio track, you can put them together, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want to do. So I'm going to drag that over whilst this finishes. It shouldn't take too much longer. Now, I've made 100 videos, so it's safe to say I figured out how to do this. So I know for a fact that this ST0 is actually my vocal track. So I'm going to actually delete that once we're done, and I'm only going to use this one, which is the game volume, because when I drag this into my sequence, it's going to already have this file attached. This is just creating a copy of each. It will still be on here. If we use this clip anywhere, both audio tracks are still in here. This is just 2 copies. So now this is done, I can get rid of this because I know for a fact that this is my voice track, and then this one here is my video game audio. So what I can do is I can drag this over to my settings, and then you can have a quick look in here, my sequence settings. This is what I've got going on, in case you want to have a look at it all. So the first thing that I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to put in the game audio underneath, and let's expand these a little bit so you can see them. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, because I'm using a XLR microphone, for those of you who don't know, microphones tend to give mono outputs, so I'm only using one channel on my interface, which means I've got a mono output, and mono defaults to left. If I use the second input, I think it actually defaults to right. But this is all on the left. So what I can do is I can press Shift and G, and that will give me this modified clip. I think you can find that in, let me try and go through this way in case you don't want to do that. You can go clip and modify audio channels. There you go, Shift G. And I can change the source channel to be left, and that will actually play the left channel through both sides. So if I play this now, see it, and it says new activity on your video, you'll see that you actually have two sides to it. It comes out of both sides, whereas before, if I just change that back quickly, I can show you that you would have only, I already know who it is, heard me from the left. So there you go, that's how I fix that. So I go for this, and then what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to boost the gain so that it's at a nice level. So I can hit audio gain. I'm going to normalize all peaks to 0 dB. Now what normalizing does is it will go through all of my audio and it will bring everything up, all of the peaks to 0 dB, which is about where I want it to be. That's so everything's nice and loud. We'll hit OK, it will calculate some audio peaks, and when that's done you should see this actually jump a bit and it should get a bit bigger, unless I'm not zoomed in enough. Let's see. There you go, it boots up a bit and I'll be a little bit louder. Now what I want to do here is I want to boost this one here as well, so let's do that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put some effects on my voice, and these aren't exactly effects as such, but I've got some presets actually set up because I use pretty much the same thing every time. So the first one is my compression, and this is under dynamics. Compression is an insanely helpful tool, especially for something like this. What it will do is, let me zoom out a bit and see if I can show you properly. What it's going to do is, it's going to take all of these quiet peaks, which you can see here, and all of these loud peaks, and it's going to squish them. So it's going to pull these down and it's going to pull these up. So I've got more of a continuous level throughout the whole thing, and it will also help me to stop little points like this. This is actually too loud, and I can see that from the way it's been recorded. But what could happen is if all of a sudden I got really loud, then I might jump up too high and distort, so that will help pull any of that back just in case that's happened. So let's go into here. Here's my compression settings. I've got a fairly low threshold and a pretty high ratio. I'm not sure whether that's best practice, but that's kind of the way I've gone about it. A bit of makeup gain. Basically what this will do is this will then lift the final volume essentially of the audio clip so that it's more audible. I can't really speak properly today. I've stumbled my words 1,000 times. I thought I was getting better at that. So you've got your attack as well. Now what this does, this is how long it's going to wait until it starts compressing. So for example, if you had 10 seconds of really loud audio, you might want to wait, say, half a second before it starts compressing it. But if you've got really big jumps that only last a tiny bit of time, you're going to want to have a really fast attack just to make sure that it starts compressing when it needs to, and release does the opposite. That's at the point, so it will look ahead and it will say, okay, we've got 100 milliseconds left, we can start to let go of the compression now. That's basically how this works. I've actually got it set to auto, so it's going to figure that one out for me. So that's my basic settings. I've also got a limiter here, which is set to -2 dB. That means nothing will ever go over -2 dB. If it gets close, it's just going to limit and say, nope, stop there, you're not coming any higher, which is great. And it's also going to make things a little bit louder, which is nice. And the second thing I've got is my EQ. And equalizing, you're probably all familiar with if you've ever owned a stereo or a Walkman. Oh, do you even remember Walkmans? Am I really that old? Anything like that, your car stereo will probably have an equalizer. And so what I've got going on here then is a very soft EQ. I've cut out all of this low sub frequencies here. This is just going to be loud rumble. Actually, if we play a bit just from the center, I'm going to try not to talk over it, but I'm going to shift these around so you can actually see exactly what I'm... This is me cutting things out, and when I boost things, that's what I'm lifting. So you should be able to see exactly what I'm getting rid of. Well, that's not very great, is it? This one here's mine. Don't even think about it. That. I'm just going to beat him up. But as soon as I'm just going to follow him. Bass here. As soon as we stop being vulnerable, give me this is more sub frequency. So pretty well show on a YouTube video, but I'm taking no trees around here whatsoever. We're going to have to head towards some trees. A little cut. I don't think. I make a little cut around here, and that's better than no sword. This boomy rumble, which you heard a second ago. Maybe not actually. And we've got another cut here. Cole's not very good at all, is it? Give me your wood. Nasally, horrible noise. A little boost here, which is the crisp kind of peak of the voice. Let me use your crafting bench. Should we just use his crafting bench when he puts it down? Altogether, it's just enough. It's quite subtle, but it's enough to make things a little bit, Thanks a little bit nice and smooth. I'm just going to stop playing that. And that's basically all the effects I do on it. And so I have those set as presets now because I pretty much stick with the same thing. If I need to change it, I know where it is and what to do. So that's how I go about doing my effects. And the next thing I'll do then is look at this. So what we can see is, let's find a part where the game volume... Hello and welcome to some more Ender games on the Gum. Sounds like I've actually messed up my EQ a little bit messing about with it there. It's way too crisp now. Let's go and bring that back down a little bit. In fact, let's just clear this and drag back in my preset because I know that's going to be okay for this video. So what I want to do then is find a part like this where the game volume is loud. In 99, because why not? Way too loud. Oh, we're on our countdown. There we go. So that should be better. And the next thing I'm going to need to do, and I'm probably going to speed this up because it's going to be a little bit boring, I'm going to go in and make cuts. And it's going to be things like this here, right at the beginning. And I'm going to have a second of silence, where I take a breath, get ready, make sure the video is recording, make sure everything's moving, and I just want to cut that off and drag the whole thing back to the start. Now if I skip through, like I said, I did this all in one video, so I should find points where I go quiet, like here. So I know that this section here, I'll see you in game. I'm going to say that I'll see you in the game, and then what I want to do is I want to make a cut here, and go to about here. This is where we start. Alright, this is where my commentary starts again, so I'm going to cut in about here. And I'm going to shave this off because that is just me standing around, and otherwise if I don't cut this out I'm just going to have to awkwardly fill space and try and talk, and it's going to start to bore people. It may only be a tiny bit of time, but that's what I'm going to do. Now if I skip through a bit more, what's going on here? Why are we so quiet? Yeah, this is me heading back to the lobby. You terrible god. Yeah, so there's another cut I want to make here then. So where's the tool? I can cut through it like this. And that's me clapping. I like to clap so I can find whereabouts I'm doing it, just looking at these peaks. Doesn't always help me, but a lot of the time it can be quite handy. So let's pull this back in here. That should be fine. Let's push this. Oh, let's get both of them this time, including the game audio, and drag that back over there. And I think we only played the 3 games. Yeah, we only played the 3 games in this video. So I've got that didn't take as long as I thought. So I've got these little splits now. So what happens when we go over these splits is something like this. I'll see you in game. Alright, we're in. Jumps. So what I like to do is, similar to what we did earlier, is cheat a tiny bit, and I like to use the video transitions, and there's a bunch of cool ones in here, but the one I like to use is the clock wipe. And so I can just drag that into here, and then that will give me this effect here. Alright, and that pop will disappear once this is rendered, because it will look through the audio. What it's doing is that's the compression not realizing until too late, and all of a sudden taking away all of the volume because it suddenly notices it and it creates a pop. So I can throw that in there, and once this renders, it will look at the audio properly, and that won't come out on my render, so I know I'm safe with that. And again, I've got another cut here, so I can just drag this in. And alright, we're going again. There's a nice little transition. It's little things like that I really do think makes a huge difference when it comes to making videos. It makes things just seem so much more professional. Now what we can do is we can go and find our intro that we made earlier. I'm actually going to drag this off screen so I can drag it over, and that's the minigame intro. And that can go on here. Let me close that, and let's bring this in. So we want this to be here. Now you'll notice at the bottom, I'm pointing at the screen, that's not going to help. There's another audio file, and that's our little whoosh sound. So you want to make sure you're not putting that on top of anything else. So now if we take this volume down and we play it, hello and welcome. There you go. You can hear the little whoosh, and you can see that this thing flies onto screen. And we did this in. Did we do this in 1080 this time, or is it still 720? Let's try and scale to frame size. Let's see. Yeah, we did that in 720 again, and that's why I should stop doing it. Hello and welcome. There you go. To some more happens, and this is what I was saying about an intro. I think it's nice and smooth. It gives a bit more of an introduction to the video. It looks pleasing, and it makes things a little bit more professional, in my opinion. So that's what we've got going on for my intro. And then secondly, I didn't actually show you how to make this, but using the same idea that we used with the whole using a PNG to create that logo, you can get the same effect as I have with my end card. Now the end card, again, I don't really like having things outside of the video, so I've just got something that overlaps like this. It's scaled at 720, and that's because sometimes I do videos in 720 if I want to get them up quickly. So I can just scale that to the frame size, and that will do that. So let's find what I'm doing here. I should start talking. Reasons why I love this game, because little switches like that, you can't see them coming. So you never really know what's going to happen. Here, this is where we start. But yeah, that's going to be giving an outro. So I want to throw that in. And then what I like to do is I have this little bit at the top, which is usually a link for the playlist, but I am terrible with annotations. I always forget. So if I hold Alt, the Alt key on my keyboard, I can click on this piece of video, and it will only select that, not the audio. And you can do this the other way around, so you can just select your audio. So there's a little tip if you ever want to do that. But I can click the video, and if I actually hold Alt again and drag the video, I will actually copy it. So I can put this on another track above the end card I've got here, and let me cut this down. Now, I usually like to go through the video and find out if there's anything good that's happened in the video. Then I like to, keep that in. But there wasn't really much in this. Actually, this part was quite funny, wasn't it? When we stole his crafting bench, that was fairly amusing. So let's use that part. Let's just go back, and then we chase them off into the distance. So I want to make this just as long as the end card is. And now the problem obviously is that this is overlapping everything because it takes up the whole screen. But that's not a problem, because we can hit effects controls, and we can go to our motion, and then we can change the scale size. And I know from previous experiences the closest we are going to get is 17. And now we've got this in the middle, and this is something I didn't realize until a long time of using this program. If you click the bit that says motion, you will actually be able to click and drag this around. I was always sitting there dragging these back and forwards trying to get it to go, but you can actually just click that and drag this and try and place it nicely and try and make sure we get it so it covers up that grey box behind it. There we go. I'm happy with that. Let's play it. And there you go. So we've got a little video in video. This works with anything. If you want to have a little bit of video alongside your video, then you can put some video in it. And then I want to grab myself my song. Now this is something I should really do in After Effects, but I haven't done this. And that is create an actual outro section so that I don't have to keep bringing in the song and cutting it down. So this is a song by Virtuo System. There's a subreddit that if you're into Let's Playing, you might find extremely fun, helpful, something like that. And it is the Let's Play subreddit. It's just r/r Let's Play. And it's extremely good community. There's some good stuff that goes on over there. But there was a guy who stepped up and said, I've got a bunch of tracks and I'd love it if you used them. And he gave us all what do you call them? The little agreements that say we're allowed to use it. So if YouTube argue, we can say, well, look, he told us we could. And we're going to want to make this quieter because they're very loud, mastered, professional tracks. So let's see what part of the song we're in. Because little switches like that, you just can't see. But yeah, he gave us these to use, which is incredible of him. The link is always in the description to his Bandcamp. You can actually get all of these songs for free, which is, again, really, really great of him. But you can choose to pay him if you would like, and I would suggest paying him a little bit at least if you can afford it. So what I want to do here then is I would like to have this fade in because it's too sudden otherwise. So what I can do then is I can change the level of this of the volume on the audio effects if I have this audio selected down to this, which is the lowest it will go. So if I play it now, you're doing okay though. If it wasn't, and we can skip forward to the part where the overlay comes up on screen, and I can insert another keyframe. And I can hit 0, bring this back up to full volume. There we go. So now if we play this part, you'll hear the music fades in. Interesting game. We were doing okay though, if it wasn't for that switch at the last minute. And that is one of the reasons why I love this game, because little switches like that, you can't see them coming. So you never really know what's going to happen. And I think it's a little bit too loud. It's kind of going over my voice a little bit there, so we'll just turn that down a little bit more. But yeah, there we go. That's pretty much the finished video. Essentially, that's pretty much what I'll do. So what I usually do now, and I'm not going to do it on video, is I'll watch through it a couple of times. I'll wait an hour, maybe go have some dinner, take a shower, something like that, and I'll come back and I'll rewatch the video again, see if there's any parts that I don't really like, or there's parts that, yeah, just get boring quickly, and I'll cut them out. And if there's any funny parts, like I make a stupid mistake, sometimes I will go here, do new item and title. And by doing this, I can essentially add any sort of text or overlays or anything I want up here. And then if you come out of these, then you have a little title over here, and you can just drop this on top of wherever you would like. But obviously I don't want to do that. So the next thing I would do is hit sequence and render into out. Now I'm going to do this off camera because it might take 10 minutes, and I don't want to waste 10 minutes of your time. So I'll see you in a second. Alright, so there you go. I've gone through and I've made sure all of my edits are how I want them to be, and I have gone through and rendered the effects into each video file. And so what that's basically done is it has, instead of having this original raw video file, it will take that, and then it will go back and say, right, there's some effects on this, we need to render it with this, and then we need to go back through and render it with this. And what we've done is we've created a brand new file for each of these parts, and it's basically rendered the effects onto it. So now this is just one file with the effects on, ready to go. So when we actually render this out, it'll be good. It'll be there and ready. Everything's pre-saved and pre-ready to go, so the render will be a little bit quicker once we come to doing the final thing. Then the next thing I did was I went up to my audio mixer and I lifted the volume of my voice quite a bit because I want to be nice and loud and heard, and I made sure that the volume of the game was just about right. So if we go and have a look at these louder sections of the game, you can see the ice. I'm blind. My voice is fairly high. 10 seconds. And who is there? You can hear the game volume nicely, and it's not overpowering. And so all of the volumes are good, and I'm more than happy with everything. Everything is complete. I've pre-rendered everything. I am done with this video. I'm ready to post it to the world. So the next step is obviously to export this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Export, Media, or Control M if you're a pro computerer. And then you get to render. So a good thing to check is the source range, what you're actually rendering, because it's very common practice for people to have one video here and then 20 seconds later they'll have the second episode here, and they'll go through it like that. And so the way they do this is they'll just select a section, and they'll set the sequence in here and the sequence out here, and they'll choose sequence into out, and that way it'll only render that part. And then when they want to render the second one, they just move the sequence points and they'll render the second one. And it's also good practice just to go through and make sure everything's there. And you might see, oh look, something's offline, I've got something wrong here, but you can see that we've got all of the stuff going on and it's all okay. So the next thing I want to do then is give this a name. And so this is my third episode out of Endgame, so I'm going to call it EG3. Hit save, and then here are all of my settings for Premiere Pro. These are by no means perfect. All of the effects are turned off, but these are just the effects not the effects, this is just the settings that I use to do this. So the first thing I've got then is the format, and this is a H.264 format it's going to encode to. And this will allow me to encode to MP4, which is the kind of thing that YouTube likes to be able to play. So then we've got this isn't a preset. We made sure we've ticked export video and audio because we're definitely going to want both of those. Then we've got no effects. If we hit the video tab, I've got my width and height set to 1080 because this is going to be a 1080p HD video. My frame rate is 30 because that's what we recorded at and that's what we want. And then we've got the field order. I can't tell you exactly what that means. I don't actually know. And the aspect, now this is one you definitely want to have set to square pixels, and if you saw a few of my videos, especially the 2 minigame videos, you'll notice that my aspect was wrong, and that was because I somehow had it set on one of these. So what this is basically saying is 1 pixel equals 1 pixel, and so when I have 1080 and I render at 1080, it will be 1 pixel for 1 pixel, whereas if I have it say this will say 1 pixel is 1.5 pixels, so it will actually change the aspect and make things a little bit different, and we don't want that. I've got this set to NTSC. I'm actually in Europe, so I should be using PAL, I guess, but I don't think it actually matters for YouTube, so I stick with this because this just seems to be more common. I've got high profile and level of 4. Again, I can't tell you exactly what these do. These are just the settings I have and they work. I've got render at maximum depth. This says that it will maximum bit depth, and it improves the video quality but increases how long encoding takes. So that basically just makes sure it runs as fast, well, not as fast as it can. It gets the best bitrate out of this video that it can, even if it takes a little bit longer. My bitrate settings, now this is the important bit really. This is the bit that makes the difference. Obviously you can mess these bits up, but this is the bit you want to look at. Now I use a variable bitrate and I use a 2-pass. Now you can have a constant bitrate, and what this will do is it will go through your video one time and it will keep the bitrate at exactly whatever you set it at. Then you can do a variable bitrate. A variable, is that the right word? It is good enough. A variable bitrate, and what this will do is you'll say encode at 6 megabytes per second. That's what I want. However, if you need to, you're more than welcome to go to 13 megabytes per second. If the video is not going to be smooth enough, Premiere Pro will detect that and it will say fine, we need 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to 13, and you can set this to wherever you want. I have this set at 7, and again, I can't tell you exactly why I do that because I'm not too sure. I just lifted it up in case it needs to go out. Now YouTube, I think they claim that they do 8 megabytes per second on a playback, but I'm not really too convinced they do. So I use 6 megabytes per second, and that actually keeps my file size nice and small. Now I use a variable bitrate 2-pass, and what this means is it will actually render the video twice. Well, it will encode the video twice, and what it will do is it will go through it once and it will get it all ready, and then it will go back to the beginning and it go through it again and make sure everything is perfect. And that's the way I like to do it. You can do a 1-pass if you like, but there is also kind of a chance that something could pop up. You could get some sort of tearing in the video, something weird could happen. So I like to keep 2-pass. It does take longer, obviously, because it does it twice, but I think it's just safest. Personally, that's just the way I like to do it. So audio, I've got AAC, and we're running at 48,000 hertz. We've got stereo, that's quite important, and we want high audio quality, and I'm actually rendering it at 320 kilobytes per second. I don't think that's really necessary, but if I make that any lower, it doesn't. Oh, it does change the file size a little bit, but maybe 20 megabytes. So I like to keep everything as high quality as possible, and then if YouTube is going to knock it down, it can knock it down, but it's usually not by that much. So that's my audio. My multiplexer is set to this, and this is the file type. So you remember before I said the format is H.264. This is telling it that it wants an MP4 file, and that's exactly what we want. Stream compatibility, PSP and iPod or standard. We need standard because we aren't on a PSP or iPod. If you want your video to be played on an iPod, it doesn't matter. It's going on YouTube, and YouTube will sort that side out. So you want to click standard. I assume that this is in case you want to bounce it down so that it plays back best on an iPod. I don't know too much. Captions is off. And FTP, this is for, I assume this is for uploading straight away somewhere, so it renders it to a server. I'm going to leave it alone because I don't know. And down here I've got use maximum render quality, and I think that says exactly what it does. And I've got use previews. Now this is what we did before. We rendered the video before we opened this export settings, and that created the render files, and using the previews is going to use those new files that it created. I don't want to use frame blending. I have actually tried that before, but it says create smoother motion, but what it did was make quite a lot of stuff a bit jerky, so I didn't really like it. And importing to project, I don't want to put it into the project after, so that's everything. So now I have the option between queue and export. So I can queue this, and this will, let's just do it. This will open up, what's it called? Media Encoder, which is another Adobe program that you'll get if you purchase the Creative Cloud. And I am by no means trying to advertise Creative Cloud. I'm sure that's exactly what it sounds like. It's just really worth every penny, and you're going to be very surprised at the price if you do go and check it out. And that will give you this window here. So what I can do is I could actually have my 10 episodes on here, like I said before, and I can bounce them all down and queue them, and I can just hit the play button and it will render all the way through it, so I can leave it going overnight and it will all be great. It will do it all for me. So there's that option, or you can hit the export button and that will just save it into the location that you set, which was here. So when we named it EG3, we need to do that again because I came out of this, and you can just hit export and that will just render it where I told it to. So that, from start to finish, is how I create my videos. Hopefully you've been able to pick something up of this, and if you haven't, it's given you an insight to what I do and it's interested you a little bit. Now, luckily this wasn't a hard video to edit. There's not a hell of a lot that goes on in these videos. It's more about what's going on in the video rather than the way I throw it together. So it wasn't too bad, but some videos take longer, some videos take shorter, but this is an average video that I made. Obviously, if you want to go crazy, you can throw in whatever else you like. And yeah, that's basically what I've got for you then. So like I said, I hope you've enjoyed some of it. I'm not going to render it on camera because not only would that be pointless, but it will take me a very long time. The last thing, I can't believe I forgot this. The last thing we want to do then is go back to Photoshop. And usually I'd wait until I've exported and I made sure everything's fine and uploading and everything's good. And I will reopen my thumbnail and I will create a thumbnail. So I've got my minigames thing set up here, which we made earlier. This is a 1080 canvas, in case you're wondering. We need to open up this little folder here. I've still got Virtuo System stuff up, and go in here, and I actually made a screenshot for this. Here it is. So I can just drag and drop this in, and I bet that's going to be huge. There you go, it fits perfect. I like to use screenshots of the game played or the episode played because I just do. No real reason. So a little tip, if you hold shift when you're doing this, it will maintain the aspect ratio and you won't lose quality rather than go like this. And that obviously stretches and makes things weird. So just hold shift and you get a nice thing going on there. And so what I do is with Photoshop, there's a lot going on. So just look at the one with the little eyeballs. These are the ones we're using. I have this, and I like to put this underneath this layer here. And now this layer is basically it's a blank layer and it's got a color overlays, and the opacity is dropped down to 46. So this is essentially all this is just these colors set like this, and then I've dropped this down to here and I've changed this to overlay, and that basically, it doesn't blur it out. Sometimes I like to add a bit of a blur onto the image, so you can do that by going to filter, blur. Gaussian blur seems to be the best, and then you can choose it and you can see it in the background. Kind of does it in live. If you've got the preview box ticked, we get OK, and that will just draw the attention away from the picture whilst having a nice picture. And I can see I've actually dragged this a bit too far over on the left hand side, so I can just move that back over because we've got a bit of the side showing. So that will do that, and then we can turn back on our logo, and we've got this here. And then I've got my thing that says Ender Games. Now this is just a copy of the same font and the same color. I don't want to edit that. I want to edit this, and that can be moved over. And then I've got my number. Where is my number? My number is here, number 1. Awesome stuff. And the strokes turned off. The stroke should be on. And then we can change this to number 3. And that's my thumbnail. So now I can go to this, save as. And I'm going to save this into thumbs, and I'm going to save this as EG3 because that is what this video is. And I'll set that to JPEG, hit save, and choose OK. And there we go. I've created myself my thumbnail to go along with it. So that is going to be all we have time for then. I think that basically goes through start to finish of how I go about creating a video. And that is everything. So I really hope that you have enjoyed this and took something away, like I said earlier. This wasn't meant to be a tutorial exactly, so if I've skipped over things or I've missed stuff, just ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to explain as much as I can. I am by no means the best at this. This is just the way I do it, and I'm very happy with the way I do it. And I figured this would be a nice change for our 100th video. So as I said, if you want to know anything else, just throw it in the comments and let me know if you enjoyed this video, because it was actually quite a lot of fun to make. I haven't really done anything like this before, so it was good. Yeah. I'll see you next time.